man who built a $12 million business empire last year just renewed his apartment lease. His neighbor, who earns $47,000 annually, just made an offer on a house. Something is deeply wrong with this picture, and it is not what you think. Here is what the real estate industry, the mortgage industry, and frankly your own parents have been terrified to tell you. The single most repeated piece of financial advice in the history of the middle class, buy your home as soon as possible, has quietly kept millions of people from ever building serious wealth. And the people who figured this out? They are laughing from rental properties they do not live in. Let us sit with that tension for a moment. Because if buying a home is the foundation of the American dream, why are some of the sharpest financial minds in the country deliberately choosing to pay someone else's mortgage every single month? Why would a person worth $8 million sign a lease agreement? This does not add up until it does, completely. Here is the truth that rewires everything. A primary residence is not an investment. It never was. It is a consumption asset. It is a place where you sleep, eat, argue about the thermostat, and park your car. Every dollar you pour into it, the down payment, the property taxes, the maintenance, the interest on a 30-year mortgage, is a dollar that is not compounding somewhere else. And compounding is the only game that actually matters when you are trying to build wealth from scratch. Think about what a traditional home purchase actually looks like financially. You put down, say, $60,000 on a $300,000 house. That $60,000 is now locked inside four walls. It cannot be deployed into a business. It cannot be invested in the stock market. It cannot be used to acquire a rental property that generates monthly cash flow. It is frozen, trapped, working for the bank and the city tax assessor, not for you. Self-made millionaires, the ones who built wealth through business, through investing, through strategic financial thinking, understood something critical. Liquidity is leverage. The ability to move capital quickly, to seize opportunities when they appear, to not be anchored to a single asset in a single zip code is worth far more than the psychological comfort of owning a home you will not actually own free and clear for 30 years. There is a concept in wealth building called opportunity cost, and it absolutely destroys the comfort. The renting is throwing money away argument. Yes, your rent check disappears every month, but so does your mortgage interest, your property tax, your homeowner's insurance, your maintenance costs, and the 2 decades of opportunity you sacrificed because your capital was locked in drywall and a backyard you mow twice a month. The hidden costs of home ownership are staggering, and almost nobody accounts for them honestly. If you are finding this valuable, take 5 seconds right now and hit that like button and subscribe. This channel exists to tell you the financial truth that keeps getting buried under conventional wisdom, and we do it every single week. Now, let us get more specific. Studies have consistently shown that over long periods, the stock market has historically returned somewhere between 7 and 10% annually after inflation. The average home, by contrast, appreciates at roughly 1 to 3% above inflation per year when you account for all carrying costs. Warren Buffett himself has said that his home, purchased in 1958 for $31,500, has been one of his worst investments on a percentage basis compared to everything else he could have done with that money. But the argument goes deeper than investment returns. Self-made millionaires rent their primary residence because it buys them something more valuable than equity. It buys them freedom. Freedom to relocate when a business opportunity emerges in another city. Freedom to scale down their living expenses in a recession without being trapped in an underwater mortgage. Freedom to negotiate their living situation annually instead of being handcuffed to a property for decades. In the modern economy, mobility is money. The person who can move is the person who can capitalize. There is also the psychology of wealth to consider. When your net worth is tied up in your home, you feel wealthy. Your neighbors see a beautiful house, you feel pride. But that feeling is an illusion that costs you financially. True wealth builders prefer boring liquidity over impressive real estate they live inside. They would rather appear modestly housed and be aggressively building assets than appear prosperous while their capital sits idle. The playbook of the deliberate renter looks like this. Instead of locking $60,000 into a down payment, they invest that capital. They use the flexibility of renting to keep their overhead low during the years when every available dollar should be working as hard as possible. They build their portfolio, businesses, stocks, rental properties, until those assets generate enough passive income to make the cost of living somewhere, anywhere, essentially irrelevant. Then and only then, if they choose to buy a home, it becomes a lifestyle decision, not a financial one. And they pay cash. This is the sequence that matters. Build income-generating assets first. Buy your dream home last, as a trophy, not as a strategy. The most dangerous financial myth in the world is the one that sounds the most responsible. Stop renting and start building equity. It sounds wise. It sounds grown up. But for the person in the early and middle stages of wealth building, it may be the single most expensive advice they ever follow. Millionaires rent because they have done the math. They have priced their freedom. They have looked at what $60,000 does locked in a wall versus what it does deployed in the market or in a business, and they have made a rational, countercultural, uncomfortable choice. They have chosen to look like they are behind so that they can actually get ahead. The question is not whether you should rent or buy. The question is whether you are making that decision based on social pressure, emotional comfort, and inherited assumptions, or based on the actual math of wealth creation. If this changed how you see homeownership, share this video with one person who is about to make a $300,000 mistake. And subscribe now, because next week we are going to show you exactly where self-made millionaires are putting their capital instead, and the numbers will shock you.